General Hospital spoilers leak Carly Spencer, Laura Wright, and Mana Reeves, Cynthia Watrous, are headed for troubled waters up ahead. We never thought we'd see the day that these two would unite for a common good, or at least, that's the way they'll see it. Not everyone is going to feel the same way when the truth comes out that they were working together to break up Drew Quartermaine, Cameron Matheson, and Willow Corinthos, Caitlin McMullen. Can these two powerhouse women really put aside their past differences for the betterment of their shared family's future? Will the truth about how much they really share in common when it comes to Drew find a way of coming out and threaten to ruin their alliance in the process? Just one thing. One thing. That's all that Nina and Carly will really agree on, that Drew is a predatory pariah and has no place in their family anymore, least of all near their grandchildren. While Nina seems to think her daughter is just a child with stars in her eyes about the dreamy guy who saved her life, Carly can't fathom what Willow was thinking when it comes to cheating on Michael Corinthos, Chad Dwell, nor in the way she did it. Carly is defensive of Michael, and rightfully so, but Nina would love nothing more than for Willow and Michael to never reconcile. Nina is far from transparent, right? Carly has far less to lose in this scenario. She couldn't care less if Willow never spoke to her again. All right, maybe that's not true, but she would survive it. The same can't really be said for Nina. Willow means everything to her, and losing access to her daughter again would mean also losing access to Wiley Corinthos, Viron Weaver, and Amelia Corinthos, Sequoia, and Serenity Mork-Mako. Thus, Nina can't afford to screw this up, which means she definitely can't tell Carly the truth about her daytime romps with Drew at the office, or can she? If she really needs to pull Carly over to her side, will she tell her the whole truth and risk being exposed? Cooler heads prevail. Forget about Nina and Carly going at it when it comes to how they feel about each other. Carly is furious with Willow right now, just as much as she is with Drew. Is Nina going to take that lying down? Is Carly going to be able to curtail her snarky comments and refrain from calling Willow every nasty name in the book to spare Nina's feelings? We're sure to see some bumps in the road along the way as these two aim to align with one another in the best interests of their family. The air in the hospital was thick with tension. The sterile scent of antiseptic filled the hallways, but for Carly Spencer, it was the only thing that could mask the lingering bitterness she felt from the past few days. The familiar click of her heels echoed against the linoleum floors as she walked toward the elevator, the weight of what she had just heard pressing on her chest like an anvil. Nina Reeves, of all people. Carly couldn't believe it, but here they were, allyship, her, and with Nina, no less. They had been rivals for as long as Carly could remember. Their feuds weren't merely personal, they were a war for control, for dominance in a family of complicated ties. Carly had always seen Nina as someone too self-righteous, too blinded by her own misplaced moral compass. Nina, for her part, had seen Carly as a manipulative force who would stop at nothing to get what she wanted. So to think that now they would find themselves in cahoots, it was a twist no one could have predicted. As Carly rode the elevator to the top floor, her mind flashed back to the series of events that had led to this point. Drew Quartermaine. It all came down to him. Drew, with his charming smile, his tall, broad shoulders, and his ever-so-helpful demeanor that made Willow Corinthos think he was the man of her dreams. Carly shook her head, scowling. The audacity of it all. Willow, her daughter-in-law, cheating on Michael Corinthos, of all people, with Drew Quartermaine. Carly could barely stomach the thought of it. How could Willow do that? How could she betray the man who had given her everything? The truth, of course, was that Carly's protective instincts kicked in. She had long been the matriarch of her family, and Michael was her son, her flesh and blood. No one, not even Drew, would be allowed to destroy what she had worked so hard to build. But then the shocking revelation came. Nina Reeves was on the same side. Not just because of Michael, but because of Willow, her daughter. Nina had been struggling with Willow's relationship with Drew too. In fact, she had been convinced that Drew was a predator, preying on Willow's vulnerability and using his position in the family to worm his way into their lives. The notion made Carly furious, but it also made sense. Drew had crossed a line in ways no one in their family ever should. What surprised Carly the most was that Nina, typically reserved and calculating, had come to her, extending an olive branch. Both women were hurting, both were disgusted by the actions of the man they once believed could do no wrong. But Carly couldn't deny that part of her relished the thought of working alongside Nina. As much as she wanted to strangle her for the years of animosity, there was a strange satisfaction in having a shared enemy. Drew needed to be taken down, and maybe, just maybe, Nina was the ally Carly had been looking for all this time. The elevator doors opened, and Carly stepped into the corridor of Drew's office floor. There was no turning back now. The pieces were in place, and the alliance had been made. Nina stood there, waiting for Carly. She looked different, pale, drawn, her expression tight with both anticipation and fear. "Are we doing this?" Carly asked, crossing her arms as she leaned against the doorframe. Nina nodded, but her eyes were distant. "We have no other choice. Drew can't be trusted. Willow deserves better, and Michael, well, he's your son." Carly swallowed hard, keeping her emotions in check. This isn't just about Michael. This is about us, our families, our futures. Drew has no place in it. Both women stood in the hallway, silently agreeing that this would be their only shot at getting things right. But the question remained, how much would they really trust each other in the end? Days passed, and the plan they devised slowly began to take shape. Carly and Nina became a formidable pair. They didn't speak about their past, about the many fights, the slights, or the moments of deep-seated hatred. But the more they worked together, the more they realized they were both mothers who would go to any lengths to protect their families. They were both powerful women, but in different ways. Nina was calculating, a master of subtlety. Carly was bold and fierce, unafraid of making a spectacle when necessary. Together, they were an unstoppable force. But as the days wore on, the strain began to show. There were cracks in the facade, moments when one or both women almost slipped, revealing the truths they had been hiding. Carly could barely contain her fury when she thought about Drew's betrayal of Willow. She couldn't help but think of Michael, of what he must be feeling. She knew she was overreacting, but she couldn't help herself. Nina, on the other hand, was struggling with her own guilt. Losing Willow had been a blow. She had tried so hard to build a relationship with her daughter, to be a mother, and now Carly's accusations about Drew were causing rifts that threatened to tear apart everything Nina had worked for. Carly's words, often sharp and harsh, stung more than Nina wanted to admit. But she had to keep her composure. Willow was everything to her now. Without Willow, she would lose everything. Wiley, Amelia, the family she had so desperately fought for. Despite the bond they were trying to build, the undercurrent of distrust ran deep between them. "Carly, please. I need you to understand that this isn't just about you or Michael. It's about Willow. She's my daughter, and I can't lose her." "You can't understand how much that hurts," Nina said, her voice barely a whisper. Carly looked at her face softened but still guarded. "I understand more than you think." As the weeks wore on, their plan came to fruition. They gathered evidence, documented Drew's actions, and slowly began to make their move. Yet a shadow still hung over them. The deeper they dug, the more complicated the situation became. There were whispers about Nina's own involvement with Drew, about their late-night meetings, about how much Nina knew about Drew's manipulation. Carly, for her part, refused to believe any of it, but the doubts started to creep in. Was Nina being truthful with her? Was she withholding something critical?